All right, let's turn our attention to the overall question of where we are really moving now on the question of land. And this, I think, is going to be one of the big themes all month, perhaps all year long, because we are getting a Land Acquisition Act that is soon going to be coming up in Parliament. We've also seen a Supreme Court order that has got a lot of people scratching their heads and saying, what exactly is this going to mean? We are going to be talking to a number of people. Brinda Karat is still with us. We're trying to get Mehta Patkar in a couple of minutes. Harish Salve, former Solicitor General of India, is going to be joining us. And Anshuman Magazine sitting right here. Anshuman, let me just first start off by asking you from the real estate point of view. Supreme Court, after what it did in Greater Noida, has got a lot of people saying, we bought property in some of these complexes. What is going to happen to our house? On the other hand, farmers are saying that property was only set up because our land was taken away at a pittance. How do you see this settling down?
I think it will settle down as far as this area is concerned, because a lot of the land which is disputed, there was no development done. Where there is development done, of course, the developers, so far, what I've read in the media, they're saying they'll take care of the people who bought. Especially with the media attention, I'm sure these developers hope, I hope that they will take care of the consumers. But the fact is that, yes, this will set some precedents in other states also when as far as land is concerned. And I think the major issue really here is of valuation. Number one, I think people are getting emotional, but the fact is, if land is acquired in a transparent manner, and if the valuation was done properly, we would not have faced this issue,
So you're saying the real problem is that they were paid too little, and that's really where the essence and the nub of the question is.
See, too little is also relative, because sometimes what happens is by the time the government does acquisition, the period, and the way our property prices have gone up, maybe at that time of acquisition the price was right. Price goes up, and in many cases the farmers are exploited. In some cases even the farmers exploit because they want higher value than what they had committed earlier.
All right, Brinda Karat, let me just turn to you. And I think one of the big questions as this bill finally does come up in Parliament, which I'm sure you're going to be dealing with, is the entire question of the extent to which it is retrospective. Because after the Supreme Court order and the fact that there's a new Land Acquisition Act coming, the big question everyone's asking is how many cases this is going to apply, and will it apply to cases where which have already been taken over, where buildings have come up, or is there going to be some sort of a compromise formula where the new act will apply in cases where compensation has not been accepted or where there's a pending court case? What is your take on it, and where do you think the law should eventually settle on the question of retrospective action?
Absolutely. There are so many cases. There are cases 40, 50 years old. I was recently in Jharkhand, where the land which had been taken over for the Damodar project, or land which has been taken over for coal mining, in which so many promises had been made, 30, 40, 50 years later, those people have still not received their compensation. So there are two issues here. One, the land which remains unused, in which people have not taken compensation. Will this law, what is the law going to have for the older cases where compensation has not been paid, or where only partial compensation has been paid? Will they then have a legal right to ensure that those lands are backed, those rights are backed by the law? That is one question. But quite frankly, nobody actually knows what the government plans to bring in this new Land Acquisition Act. It's not been discussed at all.
So when they do come up with a new Land Acquisition Act, you think that these broader issues of just to whom it is going to apply, because I can foresee a whole rush of court cases. We're already seeing a bunch of people who've come out and filed petitions in just the last 4 days. So whenever this act comes up, it's very important to specify here is where it will be applicable to and where it will not. And there are lots of, as you're saying, broader issues that need to be looked at.
Well, for example, you take the demand raised by Mamata Banerjee, in which she says government has absolutely no role to play. It must be left entirely to private players. Now, this is a very double-edged sword, which is really it may really go against the smaller peasant, and particularly tenants, because in India we have a large number of tenants who do not have any rights as far as compensation is concerned. So the landowner, who may not be tilling the land, will get the compensation, but the tenant will be thrown out of the land, because in most parts of the country he is not registered. The tenant is not registered. There are no legal bargadars or sharecroppers. Then apart from that, the agricultural workers who depend on that land, they are also not going to get any rights if you just have private players coming in.
NDTV's cricket app. Android and iPhone. Fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. NDTV.com/apps.